We'll call the Boundary County Library Board of Trustees meeting to order. First we'll do a roll call. Zone 1, Ken, he sent me a text. He's just worked 16 hours straight and he will not, on the construction projects, he will not be on today's meeting. Zone 2, Wendy.
Present.
Zone 3, Aaron.
Present.
Zone 4, Bob, present. And Zone 5, Lee.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll open with public comments. If anyone from the audience cares to have a 3-minute speech.
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to let you know that through my research over the last month, focusing on campaign donors, who paid for the ads, the flyers and the articles in the newspaper, it was very apparent that our 2 candidates were completely supported by 9B Strong and the Human Rights Task Force, whether it was through labor or through donations. It was very obvious. It was also very obvious that every time there's a vote here, they seem to be sitting in the front row trying to give you guys, I don't know what you want to call it, support, whatever. So please watch your P's and Q's, because I am watching who's donating. I'm watching the actions of how it works out through elections and also through votes like removing books and policy updates and so forth. And it's kind of alarming. It becomes political at that point. And if I'm not mistaken, the library is supposed to be non-political. And 9B Strong and the Human Rights Task Force are progressive political committees, or whatever you want to call them, organizations. So I'd appreciate it if the next elections you guys be careful on that.
Okay, anyone else? Yes.
I would like to.
What's your name, please?
Jana Mosley. I would like
I don't know how to
to.
spell your first name.
Jana.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to talk about the reconsideration books. I was at the meeting the first meeting, and all of you were unhappy with the book. You said it's not good book. And however, you kept it on the shelf. So is that how you're gonna play the game? The book hasn't been, first of all, the book hasn't been borrowed for quite some time, right? And all of you who read it said, yeah, no, this is not a good book. I would not recommend it. All of you kept it on the shelf. Has it been replaced? You better change your strategy. Because the public is not happy. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll continue on to our next agenda item, swearing in of the re-elected board members. So Aaron and Lee, maybe just go ahead and read that and.
Great. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Idaho, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of library trustee according to the best of my abilities.
Okay, and
So you want me to sign this?
yeah,
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Idaho, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of library trustee according to the best of my abilities.
thank you. And thank you guys for volunteering to stay on the library board. I know in the past it's hard to get candidates in general for the library, so I appreciate you guys' innumerable hours and effort that you put into it. Thank you. Okay, and then, under agenda items, under June meeting, we also, according to the Idaho law, as it's our annual meeting to elect the officers of the board and to establish regular meeting dates. So we can either take a motion for the status quo or nominations for any of those positions of chair, vice chair, and treasurer and clerk. Open for discussion.
I guess I would put a motion for the status quo. We stay the
You're
same
doing
as
such a
we were
great
last
job,
year.
Bob. You're doing such a great job.
And I would second that.
Further discussion on it?
I'll agree to my roles here.
So currently, I'm the chair, Aaron is vice chair, director's treasurer, and Aaron's been also doing the clerk.
Yeah.
duties. And you're
Sure.
so comfortable doing that,
Getting more comfortable doing that.
okay? So the motion's been made and seconded, all in favor of the status quo, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. The other item is our meeting dates. Traditionally, we've been the third Thursday of every month at 10 o'clock. I'll open that up for discussion.
That seems to work.
I think I would agree to leave it the same.
Any comment, Aaron?
I'm good with that, yeah. Works for me.
Yeah, the only downside I can see is currently with, at times like this with Ken on construction, it makes him hard to,
What would be a more convenient time for him, do we know?
and it probably depends whether he's, whether his schedule changes or not, which is kind of hard to say.
And we've talked about evening ones before. For me, that's a little bit tough, because with my kids, that's always just crazy time of the day. I can get rid of them for daytime meetings, so that's what works for me.
And Ken never knows where he's gonna be.
That's
So
true.
even if we made it in the evenings, if he's too far away, he won't come.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
he's been doing night shift too, so.
Yeah.
Right, and he never knows that goes from job to job,
Right,
not to throw a wrench on it, but.
so,
Why is he right here?
case, so do we have a motion? Or any further discussion?
I guess I would put a motion that we keep the meeting time and date the same.
Okay, and we do,
I second
okay, any further discussion? We do have, that is a time that does work for being able to reserve this building, which is
Right.
That's useful too.
very important.
Yeah.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to post our meetings for the upcoming fiscal year on the third Thursday of every month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll go on to our approval of the minutes. First, start with the May 18th regular meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
No, good.
Okay, Lee,
Yes, that looks good to me.
ready?
it. I have nothing to add.
Okay, so we'll take a motion for accepting the meetings of the regular meeting on May 18th at 10 o'clock.
I would put a motion to accept the minutes for May 18 and 10.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. And then our next agenda item is the meetings from the special meeting book reconsideration. Any discussion or corrections on those?
I didn't see any.
Yeah, I don't see where I need to make any corrections. So
I'm satisfied with them.
okay,
I don't know over a lot of times.
yeah. And Wendy, do you have any changes or that you see in there?
No, but I would like to thank the patrons who wrote letters regarding the books. I appreciate the fact that they took the time to do that.
I guess
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Yes, go ahead.
Motion to accept the minutes of May 18th at 6 p.m.
I'll second the motion. All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, next agenda item is a potential addition to add to the header to the material reconsideration form. And here's what it says here. The Supreme Court has ruled that all material must be considered, in parentheses, read, viewed, or listened to, end of parentheses, in its entirety, and may not be ruled obscene by selected excerpts. Other than that, the rest of the form is as was approved prior.
Yeah, and that was on a previous form, right? That was a header on.
Yeah, it was our previous, yeah, we did have that on our previous letter, yes.
Right. Okay.
So any further discussion on that?
I guess I would make a motion to accept it as changed then.
Okay. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Then we go on to the director's report.
All those wonderful statistics.
Yes.
We're actually picking up, we're getting a lot busier. We had 3,944 patron visits in the last month.
Wow.
Amy's
Sorry.
ramping up the Fab Lab. She's doing 2 to 3 Fab Lab appointments per week.
Sweet.
Just about everybody she calls signs up, because she has that list of people who are interested.
That's awesome.
A
And they're
lot of-
all excited to get back
Oh,
home again. They've
They're
been just waiting.
stoked. Yeah, everybody's stoked.
Cool.
Yeah. A lot of it is folks that had been trained before and they're just coming back. I don't know how many she started from scratch, but there have been a few of those too. So it's really, she spent a lot of time getting the Fab Lab in more organized shape, and it seems to be going really well and really smooth.
What, are they using the 3D printer mostly? What machines?
Right now, yes. Yes, because most of everybody who's coming back are little kids, and that's
Yeah.
their thing, they like to.
They've already
build little
downloaded
characters
the-
together.
yeah.
So, yeah, but then, if it goes anything like it has in the past, once you start creeping towards Christmas, people start coming in making wooden things and, yeah, vinyl things, and yeah, so. The Lego robotics started, and that's been extremely well attended. It's fun to go down there when all the teams are down there, cause they're just excited. And every little team is like seriously concentrating on their little robot, and she's had them do the paces, and she's got this great big maze board, and they've done, it's great. It's just really, really cool to see. 57 kids in that first session, and we still have people calling and or stopping by and saying, oh, I just heard about this, is there room, can I still sign up? So it's really nice that it extends throughout the summer and that we have different, like we have 2 sessions, I think, per challenge. So if you miss that first one, you can still come and do it. So that's growing great guns. It's really exciting. Yeah, it's cool.
And you've got the older kids in there helping, they're showing up?
There is one mentor has been showing up each time, yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Cool.
something we might need to, because the whole robotics team from the high school is supposed to take turns coming in and helping.
Right, that was the plan.
That was the plan.
But then summer
Yes.
starts and
Right,
you
right,
gotta
right.
catch
So
up
maybe
with high
after,
school kids,
but
right?
school just ended, so maybe after they, like maybe the next session they'll be coming a little more.
Look at their
Yeah.
young ones now.
So, our story time continues to be, we have 101 story time kids come in this last month. They had 49 kids came in for field trips. Peggy, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Peggy started to go to the Historian this
Okay.
month to visit. That was something that Larry Hosterman was doing for us for a long time, and then he quit after COVID. So this is actually the first regular scheduled visit every month somebody goes. And when Peggy was still on payroll, she did it way back when too,
Yeah.
so.
So what is she doing during those visits?
Initially, well, she talked to Larry, got a list of folks that were in the Restorium that like to get books and other materials from us. And then she went over there the first time, saw who was still there, if there were new people. Basically, she has a little list per person. So she has 5 or 6 people in her notebook, and she makes notes about what kind of materials they like, what kind of stories they like to read. Some people would rather have a DVD. And then gathers all that material up, goes over there, and usually spends anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on what each individual person is doing, and she will sit and chat with them. So that's
Nice.
part of it too, is she goes
Oh,
and
yeah.
visits, you know, and they talk stories and books, and she always comes back looking tired but really happy. So it's an awesome outreach. I'm so glad we're able to do it again. And also that Peggy's doing it, because it was something she always did love to do, so.
Nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's nice to be doing it again. Also, the server is switched over as of Monday. Mike Cox came in over the weekend and finished, there was something he had to do at every individual, he had to introduce every individual computer to the new server. And then everything got switched over on Monday.
That all went well?
No glitches,
Oh, cool.
no nothing. There's been a couple of, Amy had to go and download some apps on some of the patron computers, things like Word, really basic stuff. But everything we've come across, it's like, is this supposed to be like this? And she just knows what to do, so, yeah. Nothing complicated and no big, that was what I was worried about. But yeah, it just smoothly transitioned over, no interruption in business at all, so.
Good.
And now we should be good for at least 10 years, if not longer.
Yeah, right.
With that central brain, now,
Yeah, right.
and
Yeah.
it's in the budget, now we need to look at replacing some of the actual computers, but it was a relief when it just smoothly,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
great.
Because they always tell you that, oh, yeah, no problem.
Let's just plug right
Yeah,
in,
right. How often does that happen? But yeah, it worked, so. And we're, next month, summer reading program starts in July.
Okay.
So Terry's doing a lot of planning and decorating and paperwork for that.
What's our theme?
We are all tied together.
All tied together,
Yeah,
huh?
so all of our decorations are tie-dye decorations, and she's gonna do something in the park where they're gonna get to tie-dye. I think she bought little bags. They get to tie-dye their own little bags.
That's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be out in the park.
Yes.
Where it should be. Yeah.
Right.
But that'll be fun.
Good.
So, yeah. So that's about it.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Director Berlin?
Sort of a random question. What's the little shed down by the bottom corner back there?
That is the snow blower.
Oh, okay.
Definitely donated.
I see, okay. Did you donate the shed too, or we had to get a little shed to hide it in?
No, we bought that, oh shoot.
Way back when.
Yeah,
Last
I
fall.
put it together and
Okay.
it only had about 1,200 pieces.
Right, yeah. I hadn't seen it there. Have I not
Well, it's
walked
been
around
some-
that corner for a while,
Yeah,
I guess?
yeah.
Okay.
I did the same thing though. I walked around that corner. I was like, what
Yeah,
is
I
that?
ran
I
into
didn't
it.
know
I was
it was
like-
there. It was still like visually, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But that way it's handy and
Yeah.
locked up.
yeah,
No, that's good.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it'd be handier if it had the door on the end of it. Because getting that snow blower in and out of it's a challenge.
Yeah. A wrestling match.
But it's a nice addition to have it there. Thanks again to Lee for donating that snow blower. Okay, if there's no other further items on the director's report, does everyone have a chance to review the May financials? I looked them over myself, and of course, we're trending as we have here for the past few months, way under our budget, and that's, like we've discussed in the past, primarily due to the small staff we had at the beginning of the fiscal year. And we're 75% of the way through our current fiscal year. Our equipment expense is a little bit higher right now, but we just went through purchasing that, so that'll come in line. And other than that, I don't see anything any concerns or anything. Anyone else?
Do we have any big expenses on the horizon? What's that?
This fiscal year or next?
Well, yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
This you mean for the
mean-
next 4 months?
So, I mean, so if we end up with a surplus this year, are we looking at things that, purchases that we need to make that we may?
Well, we can
You read it
we can
off
do
the
carry, we
clear.
can do carryover on surplus funds, so, I guess that'll lead in, probably in our next discussion on our next fiscal year, if there's certain items we need to do, particularly as far as in line of maintenance repair or other avenues we need to, look at as far as for programs and things for the library.
I mean, I'm not one to spend money just because we have it.
Right, yeah, no,
I
yeah.
think on a year when we do have a little extra, it's nice to say, okay, this is something that we really should be tackling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's look into doing that when we have a little extra money.
The money that went for the new server was originally earmarked for replacing the patron computers because they're getting quite old, and our IT guy mentioned the other day that most of them will not be able to upgrade to Windows 11 when that comes out.
Right.
So those still do need replaced. So if we have anything, that would be the next focus in terms of what kind of equipment.
Okay.
As well as the computers that we're using up at the front desk are actually even older than the computers that are the patron computers.
Yes, oh yeah.
So those need to be replaced too, but that would just be 3 of them. We just need to replace 3 of them. So that
Yeah,
little area would be the first in terms of
okay,
where else should we?
yeah.
That would definitely be it. Yeah. But like the Fab Lab, I was talking to Amy, it's established. There's,
Yeah, it really is.
aside from more 3D printer stuff, right, which is not, at this point, we have a stock, so it's just 1 or 2 things as we go, so that's kind of set, so,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do talk about some of that in the budget proposal letter.
Okay.
so.
Is there a, protocol for consumables if you're a user of the Fab Lab?
There's suggested donations depending on what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Alright.
people are always encouraged, and people are really good about doing it.
Right.
They'll come up to make another appointment and then say, oh yeah, and here's this for the whatever, you know. They just.
Cause we got a huge donation of it for a while, but that's not gonna last forever, right? So,
People are really good about donating. They really are.
okay, that's
Yeah.
good, that's good.
Yeah.
It just didn't, I mean, I don't wanna get us in a situation where we have people that are taking advantage of the situation where most everybody is good, but somebody comes in there and prints
So far, that has not.
200 Pikachus a month or something, right?
No, that hasn't happened. And I think part of that is because it's established before they even begin that this is about, kind of a one-off creative situation. But if you're talking about mass production, then that puts you in the category of maybe you're trying to produce that to sell it,
Right.
which is not what we do.
Or even gift it to all of your friends, right? Kind of
Yeah,
situation.
you could
like,
make, yeah.
You can make a few gifts, but if you're gonna
Right.
make your entire Christmas list, that's
Right.
down at the library,
Right.
then.
Then it would, at the very least, it would be a discussion. And, yeah, so,
But you haven't really run up against that yet, it sounds like.
no.
It's good. All right.
Okay. Any further discussion on the May financials? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to review the budget proposal for the 23-24 budget year. And this is basically a first draft, and we'll get into this in more detail after everyone's had a chance to review it. But this, again, I think is the time we need to look if there's some capital improvements or remodeling or that type of thing we need to do to the library. So I would give that some thought. I know, I don't think it's happened this year, but last year we had a issue with water seepage coming from the floor up. And I don't know if you're down, just as you go down the stairs in that area. And my understanding is some of our drains from the roof, and Sandra, I'm sure would know, come through the walls. Is that true?
It comes through the parking lot just outside that
Oh,
wall.
that's just the overflow, I was told.
Okay.
The rest of it goes, you can hear it go through
It
the,
actually isn't coming through the wall, so.
I think, is that correct, Sandra?
Yeah, the way the drain system is, and you have a layout of that, it's in the original library blueprints and things, and those are downstairs in the office by the Fab Lab. But the drains are along that west side, and the roof is pitched so that the rain, water, snow melt and everything, but they come down. You'll hear it when it rains real hard. We used to have the computers close to the wall, and you could hear the water running down. And then it goes to a central that comes out, and that feeds to the drain in the cement slab.
Okay, so it feeds straight
Yeah,
into
you know
that.
that little, because there's a switch inside the library that turns on heat tape to keep that drain from freezing up, because that's where the overflow goes. The pipe you see that comes out from that little
Right.
incline, that's from the parking lots and stuff. But there is an overflow too that comes down by the door, you know, that pipe that
Big
comes
pipe.
down like that.
Yeah.
But it has to get, the water on the roof has to get really, really high. It wasn't even draining that October when we had all the leaves on top of the drain. And Denny Waddell from BF Builders got up there and he said the water at that end of the hole on that side was like 1.5 feet deep,
Okay.
because the leaves packed over the top of
Right.
the drains, at least 2 or 3 of them. So, and once he got it out, it was gone, but you didn't see that flowing out into the alleyway and stuff. It goes to that storm drain. And then there's that other little storm drain in the grass. That's for the parking lot overflow. That's another trouble point that the city and the library district have not been able to figure out.
Kind of a low point for like all of downtown, right?
That time when it came down, the roof was starting to leak because of the drains were filled. That was the one I was out there, because there was like 2 feet of leaves on top of that drain. I was out there, had my water boots
Yeah.
to my knees.
That tree's gone now.
Yeah, Dave flattened all those trees, so.
Yeah, so that's helped a lot as far
That, we
as.
don't have that problem anymore.
And
But
we have
still,
one more,
the way where the drain is, it has a tendency for the leaves that are in that area to kind of, the city's been really good about trying to blow them off and take them off, vacuum them up and everything. But there's that dirt edging and stuff, so like I said, you have to kind of make sure the water goes that way
Yeah.
and not back out.
and if the drain on the roof is drained properly, then I don't think you need to worry about the one down behind the wall, correct? It's like a cumulative effect.
That's actually on the building,
Yeah,
yeah, probably should.
right. And it's in fact, last week Mike went up there and cleared it out, and he said it was full of those maple seeds, which
Oh,
should
yeah.
not happen anymore.
Right.
Because the tree's gone, but he did suggest, and this isn't the first time he suggested it, that we should just have somebody go up there and look every spring.
Yes, and that's the way the maintenance schedule had been for years, is, usually it was somebody from BF Builders, because they had done all the finished work on the building and kind of kept the thing together. That one of them would go up and they would check the drains. You also have, but you don't have the air conditioning up on the roof anymore, but that got the drains as well, not just the leaves from the overhanging trees, so. But yeah, and just to make sure everything looks good.
I'm not clear on the drains that are within the walls. Where's the outlet on that at?
That's the one that goes down and over. They're not outside.
Do you see, does it visibly
They're
ever
all-
come up? Do you
They're
ever
all
see
on-
it?
They're all on the top of the roof.
But I mean, does it go
It
directly
ties in,
underground to
yeah.
the drain or?
Yeah, they come down and it's a central pipe that goes to the edge of the building and then it goes out to that drain.
So it's not visible outside
No,
looking,
it's
okay,
underground.
so.
You can just tear it in the walls.
Don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it.
So I'm just kinda wondering if that's the one that might have caused the wet area in the basement there on the floor, or if that could have been in the parking lot.
Well, like I said, you can look at the plans, but as far as I know, it's pretty low.
Unless it's plugged,
And that's
natural
the
flow
first time
that
it's
should-
ever been wet in that spot.
Where was the water at, Bob?
As you come down into the downstairs, immediately just to the left of the stairs, it was wet right in that area.
You might wanna check the seal along the building of the parking lot, the asphalt and stuff. There may be a crack there, that it's seeping down and then it's seeping through the concrete. Cause that's the other thing that we found over the years when we remodeled for the Fab Lab and the other room, that they literally it was so cracked and they had to chisel it out. But the concrete for the main part of the building is quite thick. And then and it's reinforced, so, but again, the building's floating on piers too, so,
Thank you.
as you can tell by the doors, when it opens and it bangs up against the floor.
Yeah. So what I would, like is for, the different trustees this coming month to get with, our director as far as looking at the items and see if they look any, what you would recommend or any changes, or I know there's been some discussion on doing something with the bathrooms, whatever, so that we can get that formalized for our this upcoming budget, and that will finalize in August. So, and Lynn's got a breakdown by each of these categories, go over in detail. And under the professional fees, I need to do a little bit of visiting there with the attorney to see if there's any potential things there we need to budget for, just in case so.
yeah, I mean, I see that everything goes up except for personnel is there.
Well, we're running with a shorter staff.
Yeah.
Than I mean, Lynn's doing, of course, the director, she was one of the employees before, and then Derek is gone.
Right.
And so we've been doing that under professional fees this year, so that's part of it. But yeah, we're, and have quite a few newer hires and lower wage rates. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you'll be satisfied with that next year, you think? I mean,
Yeah, that'll work for next year.
Okay.
The year after that, it'll be different.
We'll have to turn it
Yeah.
back up again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so any further discussion on that, or? Let's see. Then we have, as time permits, to review and discuss the overdue tagging policy, including review of the tagging procedure statistics, and to set a date for material reconsideration of me and Earl and Diane Girl book. I believe we got time to continue there. So let's start with the tagging procedures. Lee has been doing quite a bit of work in that regard, and Lynn's got some statistics she put together.
Wonderful staff did it.
Staff, okay. As you can see here, currently on first tagged, was 371 accounts. So how far back does this go, Lynn?
Pretty much everything that we have, yes.
Okay,
That's what we asked them to look at.
like.
How many
20
accounts?
20 years, 20,
How long have we been doing tags?
I've seen names in there that came up when I first started working in 1985 and beyond.
Right.
okay.
So by the time I started working there, it was already, I mean, it was just how we did things.
They
So,
got pulled if they knew they had died.
okay.
Okay.
So yeah, forever.
So during that time period, it's the cost to replace materials ranged from $6 to $675 for an average of $55 or a total of $20,000. 35 occurred in the last 2 years. That's quite a few.
Mhm.
70 in the last 5 years, and 180 in the last 10 years. So actually, it's trending up, isn't it? Because that's 18 a year for the last 10 years. We had, I guess about the same, about 18 a year. Then second tags, we had 371 first tagged and 39 second tags.
So those are currently what we have.
Oh, currently?
Yeah.
So there's 39 that are
Second
currently
tag.
second tags.
Correct.
Wow.
And so they're not allowed to borrow any more materials till they come
Till they come talk to you.
talk to us, and none of those people have chosen that.
Correct.
How many accounts are there total, do we know?
How many what now?
Total accounts are there?
In the
In
library,
the library?
about a patron.
I mean, just
Yeah.
ballpark?
Guess maybe?
10,000, 5,000? Everybody in the county?
No, that's not everybody in the county. No. Do you know, Sandy, how many accounts we have altogether?
Not off the top of my head, because like I said, I retired in 2016. But we were averaging, according to statistic by the population,
Mhm.
we were averaging a pretty good 74% of the, or higher,
Okay.
of the county population. Because people,
Which
they
is
sign
now
up
what,
as
12?
families, so you have one card, but you've got 6 people on the card or something like that, so.
Oh, yeah, that's true, it doesn't even really follow that, does it?
Yeah, I think when I left, we had well over 12,000
Accounts,
accounts.
but then your
No,
average,
Not accounts,
People.
because you'd have to go back because that counts population.
Right, 12,000 is
Okay.
population.
Okay.
But that would be, I mean, that would still be, 75% of that would be,
Like 8,000.
8 or 9,000
Yeah.
people, 8 or 9,000 accounts. So,
So out of,
mean, I can get you some, precisely.
So then the so on these.
Less than 5% of the accounts.
So on these 39 accounts are, some of those have recompensated for the materials or not?
Well, if you're looking at your second tags, that's why it's broken into, this is what their first tags look like, and this is what the second tags look like, because the first tags represent, you wouldn't even have a chance to get a second tag unless you cleared out your first tag.
Okay.
So yeah, first tags, this is what the stats look like, but those patrons came in and took care of it and were allowed to resume their privileges. And then out of those people, then they were tagged again, and this is what you're looking at in terms of.
Okay. Out of the patrons that have their second tag, how many of them have made the library whole as far as the cost of materials, do you know?
I think it's 14 at the bottom. There are 14 accounts that returned or
Oh.
paid for the items, and they were tagged and have not spoken. So we're talking about 14
Out of
Out of
39?
out of 39.
Okay.
So just short of half. Wow, it's like, no, like a third.
Okay.
I mean, this suggestion from the staff here is fantastic. I mean, that's sort of where we were getting to in the first place, right?
It was the main issue.
Yeah, it is the main issue.
It's the main point that has caused like, well, I'm not doing that.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the wall that people
Yeah.
just don't wanna, so yeah, that's, the whole thing came up because it's like, well, can we do this another way? That's maybe not so intimidating.
And I think because we did, I mean, we discussed the fact that we have to have accountability. You know, you can't let people be unaccountable to the rest of the community because A, the rest of the community also owns these materials, and B, if you have this book sliding around under the seat of your car for 3 months, nobody else can use that book, right? And so, you know,
Right.
those two issues are the accountability where we have to do something. We can't just sort of let it slide. But definitely the big hang up is the having to come talk to us. You know, take that time, set it up with the meeting, you know, that's a pretty big hurdle to jump over. So the ability to have a one-on-one meeting with their trustee or write a letter that can then be sent before the board, I think alleviates those while still keeping in place this tagging structure that holds people accountable.
So here's the three options that the staff recommends. Patron appears before the entire board to explain the pattern of behavior leading to the two tags, and then I assume how to prevent that in the future. 2, patron has one meeting, has a one-on-one meeting with their specific trustee, and that trustee brings before the assembled board a recommendation for consideration of the second tag. And the third option is the patron may write a letter stating a reason for a second tag, which can then be shared, discussed, and decided on by the board. And then, so those are the ones the staff kind of.
That's what we came up with just in terms of, rather than dismantling and restructuring the whole system, since this seems to be the major issue,
Right.
the simplest, quickest, and easiest way to change that issue, to
Okay.
expand it so that it's more user-friendly, I guess
Okay.
is what we're
I
after.
know Lee spent some time visiting with other libraries. What are they doing, Lee?
You know, it's really a mismatch of different stuff. If you compare our process to everybody else's process, there are places where we are more stringent and they are more stringent. You know, we have uniquely in our process where you present to the board. That was very unique. not a lot of people are doing that. But the way we handle the other aspects, like the paying of the book or the replacement costs or something along those lines, is also very unique. A lot of libraries are a lot less into negotiating the book or the material that gets replaced. Where does that come from and who purchases it and what standards does it meet? And it turns out to be relatively common to replace an item and then suddenly find it again. So a lot of libraries are, if you replace it and then you bring back the item, well, it's thank you very much. But in our library, we actually have a process where if you do it within a certain time frame, you keep a receipt, you can get your money back. And so I think the two things that we do that are different are the speaking before the board and the time frame at which we keep track. And basically our time frame is as long as you are a member of our library, we will track that you have done one tag out or two. And those two things are pretty unique to us, but I don't necessarily know that that's a bad idea. I guess to me, the one that the staff came up with, the 3 different options for people that are, and basically we're talking about these 14 people, which are probably, you know, a percentage of our population that's relatively small. If they go through one of these 3 steps and they can be reinstated, it seems like we would solve our problem pretty much straight up. So, you know, we're a little different. Everybody does it a little different. The thing I guess I like about what we do is we are holding people responsible for the items they check out, but we are very negotiable when it comes to the cost. And I think that really reflects our view of our community. You know, we want people to be responsible for what they're responsible for, but you know, if you can find a cheaper way to get a book or a video or whatever that you can negotiate with the director, then we're willing to do that. So to me, that kind of fits our community, I guess, is the way I would say it.
I did talk to just one library in Sanders County, and what they did until this last year, they actually yield more than $5, they turned it over to the collection agency.
Oh, I did not talk to them.
And they said, and of course, naturally, people pretty, and they said the collection agency was pretty aggressive, but of course, the bad part about that is that it affected their credit rating, and so
right.
So they actually did away with it, but they did kind of the similar thing you're saying. If they replace the materials, make the library whole, I mean, you gotta replace a hardback book with another hardback book, and it depended on the condition of the book. I mean, if it was a used book, as long as it was, you know, comparable shape, they would do that. And so I guess, you know, the downsides of it's not just getting the material back, but it's, if it goes on for months, it's not available to other patrons to check out. So it is a fairly, other than just the economical part, you know, there's that factor.
Well, and there's a significant investment in staff time to track all
That's
of
the
this.
other part of it, yes.
We're never gonna recoup the money that we have in,
No,
and
we are not.
that's sort of the point, is that we're not collecting the money to recoup the money that this process takes.
Right.
We're mostly doing this process so it doesn't reoccur, so we don't have to spend that time and money and effort again and again and again on the same person, right? That's
right.
What we're really trying to prevent. The time limit roll-off was the one thing we haven't really discussed, right? That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I think giving them other options is really a good way to be able to finalize that. I also agree that the process that we have is fairly, it's fairly solid. It works pretty well for you guys, right? Everybody knows the process. It's sort of automated, semi-automated. Emails appear and stuff like that. It sort of all prompts that automated.
And the thing to kind of keep in mind is this process is when we say 3 months and we say 4 months or whatever, that's the minimum amount of time. So if something comes up, if something gets missed, it can be 5 months and 6 months, and so it's not necessary. This is not it doesn't get any shorter, but it can get longer. Does that make sense? The tag out process.
Wendy, what's your comments as far as policy?
I think the way that we do it now works pretty well. And I think that we should just go on with the policy that we have now. And we don't seem to have any problems, really.
Somebody just went on the Monastery rants and raves and was raging about their second
Yeah.
tag and getting locked out,
Yeah.
like just this last
Go
week.
ahead, continue.
So, it is an issue.
Go ahead, continue.
Just this last week.
Yeah, one of the most recent persons was pretty furious and went online. So it is a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the staff members that came to me and wanted us to take a look at the policy because of her. She says, I know some families where the kids aren't able to use the library because of they're kind of getting penalized. And yeah, we did have a patron that was pretty upset here this past week, and I've been trading phone calls. I haven't actually spoke with them, but her issue was basically having to come in front of the board because a lot of people feel that that's demeaning. Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't think is necessary.
Okay, okay.
I think we could handle it without doing that.
What about a time limit? If you were tagged 5 years ago and you were perfectly straight and narrow until last week when your dog ate the cookbook that you borrowed.
Well, then I would go down and pay for the cookbook.
Yeah, but then you'd have to come before the board, even though for 5 years you've been a model citizen.
Well,
Then I don't think you should come before the board.
Right, so that's the question of a time limit, like, after a year of not being tagged, should you be reset back to a 0 tag status?
So we're not talking about, so if somebody, a dog eats their cookbook, and they come into the library and say, oh, my dog ate your cookbook, the library says, okay, and we'll work out a deal to replace that cookbook. But we're talking about somebody whose dog ate their cookbook 3 months ago and has not contacted the library at all to say the dog ate my cookbook. And again, that can be for whatever reason. But the library has been consistently trying to contact this person for 3 months and say, you have our cookbook, and we would like to figure this out. And
Yes,
not
other
only is
people
it
would
the
like to
first
read.
time the dog ate their cookbook, it's the second cookbook the dog ate. So it's not,
And they goes to the library.
and that goes to the library both times
Right.
for at least 3 months, not saying anything happened.
Right.
So
It's an individual.
it seemed like a really straightforward process to me, and it would be easy to solve, and then I kind of dug into it, and it's like, well, man, this is actually kind of complicated, because we're dealing with people's personal, financial, and choice matters. So it's hard for me to say exactly where the right line is, because we have a standard policy. They have done things not to meet that policy, not only once, but twice. So
And we do give them a lot of benefit of the doubt.
we do, we
Before
get
that
a lot,
happens.
and the thing I cannot stress enough is that, libraries can be very particular about this, and the books that they order can be very expensive, but our library is not that particular, and the books we are much more negotiable about books where the book comes from and who buys it, and we are much more negotiable about returning funds if the items are found. So, we are pretty particular about holding people responsible, but we're very flexible when it comes to the finances. So, it seems like we're trying to find that view of our community.
Sandra, what's your
Like I said,
take from your previous?
31 years of dealing with overviews and tag people and stuff. The suggestion, offering people more avenues of dealing with a second tag, I think is very beneficial, because we stop doing fines on a regular basis, thinking of the economic strain on our community, a lot of people financially. The other thing that you have issue to deal with too, that we didn't have years and years ago, is that there are more and more single parent households. There are more and more households where if there are two parents, they both work, their hours are all over the map, and arranging a time for one or the other to come in, that was becoming more and more of an issue too. There were more shift work, there's more night work, or they're out of town, they're working out of town. So the thought always has been is how can we be financially responsible for the library's funds, because these books are bought by taxpayers' money. Everybody pays for that, and also it's a local, everybody, library users, a benefit, a resource that they use. So if somebody, like you said, has the book out for 6 months, regardless whether the dog ate it or they just didn't return it or lost it, that kind of accountability. But again, kind of putting yourselves in the other person's shoes. And again, the thing that we really never did want to do was be able to shut off the children, which is why the library invested so much in paperbacks, uncarded books, especially for the little ones, so that they could still check out, and they can still use the internet, they can still use the computer, so that doesn't.
Yeah,
So
any of
it's
the
just
in-house
things like
materials.
DVDs and things with a barcode. But having the staff's options that they came up with were, I think, excellent, especially they could do one-on-one with their constituent, write a letter to their trustee or whatever, and,
Is this gonna be constant? Because we have a director here.
Pardon?
Is this gonna be constant?
She doesn't have the right to speak during.
Neither does she.
Yes, she does.
We have a
If
director.
you interrupt our meeting again, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
This is getting
We
ridiculous.
ask her to speak to us as an expert. We have the right to ask her to do that. She has the right to speak to us. You do not.
This is
Anyway,
Okay. Any of the other patrons have any input that they'd like to add to that?
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone? Okay. We've had quite a bit of discussion on that. Does someone have a proposal as far as accepting the staff's recommendations or adjustments thereof, and also, I guess, a time frame between tagging?
I think the time limit roll-off is probably not a good option for the reasons that we've discussed. Mostly because it would probably be difficult to put in the system, right, Lynn? Like,
It'd be difficult to keep track of.
yeah, I
And then you
think,
have to constantly be checking those tagged
right, it's not
cards
something that
to
can
say,
be
okay, well,
automatically
this not
programmed
erased.
in.
No,
right?
it
So
wouldn't.
just because of that inability to be automated, I think the time limit thing is probably a no-go. But I really do like the 3 options here.
Okay,
So can I make a motion?
certainly.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the alternate options to clear a second tag presented by the library staff.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion on that? And then I would assume that this would also include making the library whole as far as the financial part.
Yes.
to get reinstated,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
It always has, that's,
Okay.
first tag is like that too.
So basically, we're talking about the 14 people that have made the library whole.
Correct.
This is an alternate option for them to come back to
Yes.
the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a way we can contact them and tell them
Sure.
this is an option?
Yeah.
You know, I might ask you to do
To
that.
contact, yeah, and I think that's a really good idea to call those folks and say, because we have been saying to people that you guys have been looking at it and those
Yeah.
things might change, and we have at least 2 people that have come in the last month that have been second tagged, that, yeah, it would be nice to be able to contact them and say, hey, if you're uncomfortable with this,
Here's
here's
your
some
other
other options, which
options.
is what we're after in the first place,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
so, yeah.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded for changing our process from just appearing in front of the board to 2 other options here that, as currently is listed on the sheets in front of you. All in favor of the revisions, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, the next agenda item is set a date for material reconsideration of me, Earl, and the Dying Girl book. Do we want to do that just at our regular meeting, do you think, or do you think we need a special meeting for that?
So we had 3 books last time, and I reserved room for an hour, or for 2 hours, and it basically took 1 hour.
We also didn't have a full crowd in there, which, you know, that's kind of why I wanted to be able to have the after hours meeting, was because I thought maybe we'd get a big showing from the community, but we didn't.
We didn't get a very big showing, and I actually thought that would be a good idea to separate out, because if that was, you know, super staffed with community members, it would say something about how much room we needed,
Right.
really.
Yep.
But, having done one, it seems like if we put it as part of our regular meeting that's not as busy as this one with budget and all that kind of stuff, it seems reasonable to me to have it during a regular meeting next month.
Okay.
I agree.
All right, we have a motion. Or do you have any comment on that, Wendy?
No, but I think we could, that would be expedient to have it during a regular meeting.
Okay. You have a motion to that?
I guess I would make a motion to do the materials review for me and Earl and the Dying Girl at the next meeting on I forgot what day it is now. It's May something,
Our July meeting.
July.
or July, sorry, July. Going backwards.
Okay, I second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to do the
The 20th.
reconsideration of me and Earl and the Dying Girl book during our regular scheduled meeting on July, did you say it was?
20th.
20th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Was that Lee, and who seconded it?
Wendy?
Did you second that one? Wendy? Sorry. Okay.
Okay, then motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for adjournment. All in favor, aye?
At 11:03.
Very adjourned. Thank you, everyone.